All right, he there. We live, baby.
That's it. That's it. What's up? Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Welcome to
morning.
Family Talk. Again, here we are. We're at the Family Talk early morning barbecue. We know some of y'all eat breakfast food in the morning, but not us. We like that cold barbecue in the morning. Nothing like a cold barbecue chicken leg in the morning.
Oh my god.
This is our mental health discussion part two, and we got some lovely ladies. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Coach A.
We got beef.
Uh,
You got Nick. I'm gonna introduce Jimbo right now.
yes, and then of course we have our two lovely guests. We got Alicia down to the lower right hand side. I don't know how it is on everybody's screen, but that's how it is on mine. And then Maria on the left. They're going to share their experiences and their knowledge surrounding mental health. And of course, I can't forget Miss Sam. She's a regular. She's up on the top right. How you doing, Miss Sam?
I'm good.
Good. So what we're gonna do is take a quick break and then we're gonna get back into it.
Yes, sir.
It's a song. Good.
Tell them I ain't mad if they ain't know. You know I ain't mad if you love it. Can't nobody ever take this moment from me. So nigga, while I got it, then fuck it, it's all good. It's all good. Straight up, it's all good. Tell them it's all good. Tell them I ain't mad if they ain't know. You know I ain't mad if you love it. Can't nobody ever take this moment from me. So nigga, while I got it, then fuck it, it's all good.
Yes, sir. Welcome back. Welcome back. It's your
Welcome
boy
back.
Coach A right here, hanging with my fellas at the barbecue. We're talking about
They
mental
just bought
health.
this too.
Jimbo. Jimbo. That's Jimmy ain't even paying attention. Anyhow, so we're talking about mental health. And so I feel like this is a very, very important discussion because a lot of us deal with, either within ourselves, our own personal issues, or family members deal with somebody that's probably going through or had some type of mental health issue, be it, some type of mental diagnosis from either the doctor or whatnot. And so a lot of times, it's always good to talk about it and get other people's perspective and to learn how to deal with these things, how you deal with these things, and to help function. So we want to start with our guest, Miss Alicia. She says she has some information on, I believe one of her family members dealt with it. So we definitely want to come to you and want you to hear your perspective on that.
Hello. Yes, my dad. I want to say I was probably 8 years old when he was diagnosed with being bipolar, and obviously we didn't understand what it was. He didn't even understand what it was. The only thing that I can always recall was, one day he would be really happy, and then the next minute it was just like the devil. Like I didn't real recognize my father.
Hmm.
Um, so he did get treated, thank God, but unfortunately even getting treated, if the people ain't around, like around you, aren't willing to help you go through this, the treatment really isn't working, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So we had to kind of get adjusted to, okay, when dad blows up we need to walk away, or when dad is happy, that's when we need to go to him. So it was really hard growing up. I had a good life, I would never take that. My parents did everything for me, but my dad was suicidal. He had tried it a couple times. I witnessed it one time. I would never forget that day. We went camping. That was our thing. We always used to go camping every weekend. My brother forgot to put the air mattress in the car. That pissed my dad off. That triggered him, like it was horrible. He threw everything in the truck. We drove an hour back home, and he was just mad. When my mom got off of work, she was like, "No, you guys are going camping." So my mom took me and my brother back, but we didn't stay the night. We just came back like really late. When we got to the house, the whole house was destroyed. I mean,
Wow.
everything he could have touched, he touched. Pills everywhere. He's diabetic, so he was taking insulin. There was needles everywhere. And my brother's really closed off, and I also believe he suffers from bipolar. He just doesn't want to admit it. But he went downstairs in the basement, and I ran to my dad because I'm a daddy's girl, and I just saw him on the bed, like laying lifeless. And I will
Mhm.
never forget that. And I think it has affected my life a lot in relationships because, this man is supposed to be the man that's always in my life, loved me forever, and he was trying to leave me. That's how I always saw it. So I struggle a lot, trying to understand why, especially when I was young, why was he doing this? I didn't even get it. Um, so that's been my whole life. And, unfortunately, right now, he just recently got paralyzed in last year, September,
Mhm.
and he's losing it. I lost my dad. Like, I physically have him, but I don't have my dad. So, besides that, now I'm going to jump into myself. So, that happens to my dad. My mom's breast cancer comes back. My the father of my two youngest kids decided when I was pregnant he didn't want to be in a relationship anymore. And then recently, like not even a month ago, my older boy's father passed away. So when I'm telling you I am like going through it, I'm going through it. So
Mhm.
I do get treated for myself, and I had to make that decision. If I'm not healthy, I can't take care of my kids. So it was
Mhm.
either me crying every single night and trying to figure out how to, get by the day, or me going to the doctor and saying, "Yo, I need help." So it's it's give and take. Some people don't want to go with medicine. I do, only because it helps me get that edge off. Because I get
Mhm.
anxiety really, really bad, and I can't function the whole day. Like I would just be like lost in my mind, thinking like, why is this happening? How can I fix it? Because that's a problem with people that suffer depression and anxiety. We want to fix everything. We want to
Mhm.
be in control of everything. And when it's not the way we're going, we flip out, and it's not good.
So, a quick question: do you ever feel yourself like if stuff doesn't go your way? Do you ever feel yourself getting to that point where you want to flip out or something like that? When kind of similar to how your dad was, because typically a lot of the things are passed on from our parents. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Thank God I don't, because I don't have the option to give up. Like,
Hmm.
and that's why it kind of upset me so much, because he was giving up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have the option. My older ones don't have a father now. So now I have to be the best me, you know. So even when I'm at my lowest, I cry it out in the shower, and I get out and
Mhm.
I just go on with my day. I don't have no choice.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
it.
I think that's
Oh,
amazing,
please, yes,
and
yes,
one
yes.
of the important things that you mentioned that we could take away from is that you said that you choose not to give up, and so that can mean several different things. Like number one, you're not giving up on doing what you need to do, right? You're not giving in to the feeling of either tearing up things or the action that you might think about. And it's very important. I think a lot of times that's the first basis, is that we have to sometimes assess what's going on and say, hey, this ain't right, and then we have to just work hard to continue in that behavior, because by you saying not giving up is making you stronger. So Maria, how you doing?
Good.
So what has been your experience or surrounding mental health?
Ooh, where do I begin? Um, so my mom has depression. And she has bipolar. And I don't really want to speak for her because I don't know if she would be upset about it or not.
Mhm.
But I have seen her physically do things. Um, you know. Um, anyways, that's not my story to tell.
Mhm.
Um, but for me, I want to say it started I was diagnosed around maybe 10 or 11. Um, so with my mom married this guy when I was like, how old was I? I don't know, 4 or 5. Um, and he was extremely abusive. I was abused almost every day, and that tore me down. And then around 10, um, he would say a lot of remarks because my mom is a bigger person. So I would eat a lot, obviously, and he would make remarks about how when I was older, and if I kept eating like that, I would end up like her. Um, so that got into my head, and that started my whole eating disorder. And I had an eating disorder for 2 years. And I was in counseling, I was in therapy. They told me that if I didn't start gaining weight, they would put me in the hospital, where they would force me to do it, to eat. And then maybe around like 12, I was just done. I was done with getting treated the way I was getting treated. Sorry, I'm an emotional person, so if I get emotional,
No, it's okay. It's okay.
You're fine. You're
um,
fine.
I was just tired of being treated the way I was treated. So I got into drugs at 12 because I didn't want to live anymore. Like I felt like I was a complete disappointment to everyone, and it was just a lot on me. So yeah, I mean, I struggle with depression every single day. It's a battle on getting up in the morning. And as crazy as it sounds, I have 2 kids. But as crazy as it sounds, it's like sometimes I go to sleep and I pray that I don't wake up in the morning because I feel like it's just everything from my past and then everything now is just weighing down on me. And it's really hard for me to open up and talk to people. I think I said it last week. I'm the person that everybody goes to, like, hey, Maria, I'm going through this. I need help. Can you talk to me? You know what I mean? Like, I'm that person to talk to everyone. And it's really hard for me to open up and talk to other people. And I think it's harder because of our family. I mean, my cousin knows. Sometimes it feels like everyone's really quick to judge you. And you can't really open up to them without them being like, oh, you need to go get vaporized, or you need this, or well, I'm going to try to take away your kids. So just like stupid things like that, that they say instead of being there for you and like holding you, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I am a lot different than my cousin. When I get really, really bad, I try not to do it in front of the kids, but it's really uncontrollable, I guess you can say. So I'll lock myself in the room and I'll hit something, or I don't know. That's just how I deal with it, I guess. I've tried the medication. I've been on multiple medications and I can't because it turns me into a zombie. And I'd rather feel for a little bit than not feel at all, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the medication does to me. I've been on multiple and different doses, but I will literally sit on the couch and everything is going really fast, but I'm going slow motion. And I will literally stare at something on the wall, and I can stare at that thing on the wall for like 3 hours without moving, just because that's the way the medicine worked in my body, I guess. And I just didn't like that. So I ended up getting off of it, which I know isn't a good thing, but that's what I did. But yeah, I was diagnosed with bipolar, depression, really bad anxiety. And after my second son, I had really, really bad
After you
postpartum.
birth.
Yeah.
Yeah. After you give birth.
Yep.
So I do want to get into a little bit of the medication, because you hit on some points about how it make you feel, but I want to make sure that we go and some other techniques to figure out how you guys, what are your techniques now. But I want to go to Miss Sam and hear from her perspective, make sure I get everybody's before we start getting into it.
Hey, Coach.
Yes, sir.
I want to know if I can get T in real quick because she actually at work.
She want to go
she
right
can-
now? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's cool.
Of course.
Morning, guys.
Morning.
Morning.
Thanks
Morning,
for
T.
joining us.
First time in a while, so I'm glad to be here, especially with the topic. So, obviously, the two lovely ladies on the screen, my cousin. Our family has been dealt a rough hand. I also get emotional. We don't really have the biggest support systems in our family. We have a lot of individuals that are very mental, very one person versus the other. Environment like that, do a lot of damage on mental stability, mental strength, and sorry, you're walking in and out, but it can do a lot of damage. We weren't with the family that is kind of uplifting. That's on either side. That's on mom's side, some on my dad's side. It doesn't matter. It's family unit. I struggle with issues as far as the feeling that of not being good enough, not being successful enough, not being just not being good enough is what the overview of it is. Thank you for Nick. Me and Nick got married. I lost my grandmother a year later. So when Justin was talking about that last week, losing somebody that was very close to them and feeling like, you're having bad thoughts and bad. Most people don't, but I did have very, very, very good thoughts. I wanted to end my life. My grandmother was my life. And it was solely because of Nick and the support from my family, people that actually knew what I was going through and the demons that I was facing during that time. Is really the only that I'm still sitting here today, and that I give a lot of that credit to Nick because he is my strength. He is my rock, my everything. Without him, I would back. Every day is a struggle, but like another cousin said, you can choose to focus on the struggle or you focus on the positive side. I want to have kids. I want, to continue to be driving forces and factors in my life that keep me. So it's last year was really, really tough. Father-in-law, we lost my husband's aunt. And when you go through that amount of loss, it's very hard back to back, and it's very hard to stay positive. But my cousins can tell you I'm probably one of the most positive ones in my family. I try to be there for everybody. I try to support, but even the strongest sometimes need hands held. So.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. First of all, before we continue, I want to really tell you ladies that we really appreciate you guys just trusting us for one thing with your information and sharing your story for other people to hear. That's not us. We don't take that lightly. It's not a small thing to talk about you and your situation, what you're going through. And you have more support, just to let you know, between us here. Obviously you have Nick, but you can always reach out to any of us. Me, I'm always available. You can find me on Messenger or Instagram, Facebook, and get my number from whatever you need. You have more support, because that's very important to have the positive people that you can talk to and to help change it whenever you're at a down moment. So just know that life is like a roller coaster, up and down, so that whenever you're in a down moment, you have to tell yourself and remind yourself that it's just a down moment, just that, and it's going to go back up. You're going to go back up, and it always helps if you have somebody that you can talk to as well. Miss Sam, please share with us.
Guys, but thank you for having me. I'll try to come later. Bye.
Bye, T.
Bye, thank T.
I love you, B. I love you, Sam. I love you, Ollie.
All right, T, love you.
Love you.
All right, baby, it's on you.
Oh, it's on me. Sorry. So for I don't know, since I was like 14, they've always said that I've had like depression and some severe anxiety. However, my oldest son has some ADHD, and like talking with like the child therapist instead of an adult therapist, we found out it's actually more of an ADHD instead of like depression and anxiety. So I'm not like on that anymore, finally. However, I control my ADHD with coffee because it's a stimulant. So kind of just it's a different world, not being labeled like mental, I guess, and more of a
You're
yeah.
you're you could.
But it's just hard. Like it's hard being. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to get out of bed, but here you are.
So how do you process and go through that hardness getting out of bed and the things we go through as a couple, not only as a couple but as parents? Can you explain a little how you process and how you get to that?
I just really have to decompress at night. Like by Friday, my brain's fried, so I decompress, play my phone, watch TikTok, whatever I need to do to decompress. Parenting my oldest is really hard.
I got you. That's okay. It's okay.
It's really hard. I always feel like I'm failing with him because he just doesn't get it sometimes.
Sorry.
How old is your oldest?
He's gonna be 12 in September. It's just hard sometimes, but we're getting through it. I mean, we're trying. It's just so hard. I feel like I'm always failing him.
So
especially because I know how he feels. Like that's how I've always felt. So I know exactly how he feels and how he, like, why he processes things a certain way. Like I get it. I totally get it. But at the same time, like I need to teach him how I taught myself these things because I was never, I guess, diagnosed properly. So they've always just put me on meds to suppress my feelings and thoughts, even though they should have been putting me on something to like block all of the extra serotonin and extra whatever's overflowing, whatever hormones were overflowing. So like it frustrates me because I've already like learned these things, like just being older and going through it for so long. So it frustrates me when he doesn't get what I'm saying because it's like, bro, like this was me when I was your age.
I'm good.
Yeah. So what are the things that and again I thank you for sharing your story and for obviously, telling us what's going on. We have to keep and some of you guys said it, sometimes it's difficult to stay positive, but staying positives helps. It helps. I like to I know that we've been diagnosed and we have all these list of things that we were told was wrong with us. But one way you can do that, instead of focusing on what's wrong with you or what somebody said what was wrong, focus on you being perfect. Meaning when you look at yourself, you don't consider yourself having these issues any longer. Even though you might have the feelings, you might have the symptoms, but our first defense in anything is our own mental state and how we respond to our current situation. And sometimes it's difficult because, things might be falling apart around us, but it helps. It helps a lot. And so that's one of the first defenses that we have, is that we control, our thinking about the particular situation or what we're going through, and always trying to find ways to stay, to live within that particular moment and the result that we want. Again, I understand how difficult it is because it's a challenge, but we've all made it this far. We've all made it this far by continually being positive, in addition to everything else that you know, if the doctor gives you medication or whatever it is you're doing, obviously you always stay on that routine that the doctor has put you on. But again, recognizing that you are your first defense, your perception, the way you view the situation, the thoughts that you can allow to linger in your head. If you have a thought of not being worthy or not being good enough, it's up to you to change that thought, especially if you don't have an individual that you can talk to help swing you back to it. Your first defense is changing your thought and recognizing who you are, the power you have, and how important you are to your kids, to your family, and everybody here. So that's the first defense that you have in dealing with any situation, is recognizing that and controlling your thoughts, because everything comes from our thoughts. You don't just wake up and be like, the situation is bad. You wake up and you think about it first. And once you think about it, your body reacts to the thought saying, okay, this is bad, or this is going on, this is going on. And so one of the first defenses, and I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do because it takes, practice. But however, it helps. So, Drip, you there, sir? I see a bunch of mics.
I'm right here.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. How about you guys?
You're doing good, man. So enlighten us a little bit, man.
Say what?
I said enlighten us a little bit. Some of your,
okay.
I know you talked the last time, but your situation.
Oh, well, first of all, can y'all see me?
No.
Well, you can. I don't know what's going on, but it was funny because after last week, I've been watching like movies and TV throughout the week, and I turned to my wife, and every time I see something, I was like, "There go men's mental health right there,"
Mm-hmm.
A scene where a guy's opening up and stuff like that, and it gets me to thinking, like, man, I've seen all these before, but never dawned on me, like, to look and be like, man, how do I relate to this character or whatever, like, as far as mental health wise?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm looking at them going through their struggles and battles, and, like, and I put it with myself, like, the other day, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Cinderella Man. And it's actually a true story about a boxer who was at his height, and then the Great Depression hits, and then now he lost everything. And I try to put myself in that role, like, man, I wonder at that period of time, what was he going through? What was he thinking? How would I handle that? Like to be a provider, and then all of a sudden, blam, everything is gone. You're struggling to provide, for your family, your kids. What's weighing on your mind when you're doing that? Like, and I'm like, well, you know what? I think about that every day. Like, I have a bunch of people who rely on me, to make things, right, to make sure everything runs smoothly, and how much pressure that is on myself, how much pressure I put on myself,
Mm-hmm.
and shoot, man, every once in a while, I need to reach out to someone to talk about that, like, the pressures of life, period. Like, I got to make sure, because I think that if I make a false step, then look how, how many people affected by it, my kids,
Mm-hmm.
my wife, everything. Sometimes my mothers, my brothers, and stuff like that. And that's pretty hard, man, to deal with on your own.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like there's a different type of pressure when it comes to women, you know, especially when they have kids, because men, we can, you know, we're obviously we're help raising the kids, but the connection between the mother and child is a little bit stronger. And so I believe the pressure sometimes can be a lot higher in that aspect because they're there, you know, like if they have to, you know, feed the child or, you know, be with the child, they're a lot of times their main responsibility is taking care of these kids, and at the same time they have to deal with everybody's situation as far as the guys and the kids and their own situation that's going on. So recognizing that the pressure of a woman can be a lot higher in that aspect. Melissa, how you doing? You're
I'm doing
muted.
good, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Morning.
Good to be on here. I caught it late, obviously, but I'm grateful to hear other women's side of it, especially those who are mothers. Because I'm not yet a mother. I've watched a lot of kids, but I'm not a mom. I know for myself, as it relates to my mental health, I think with COVID hitting, it shook everybody's world, needless to say. And it put on the forefront like a lot of things that needed to be taken care of, especially myself. One of the things that I've begun doing, like to do, is working out and just developing a lifestyle of fitness. And I realized I just started it, quote unquote, by accident. Again, I'm just catching this, so I don't know if there was a question asked. Please let me know if there was a question that I should be answering.
No, you're fine. You're doing good.
But I realized that I just started by accident, pretty much walking. But then I started noticing a difference just in walking. And during my walk, I would listen to audios. You know, it would be a self-development audio or a book that I was listening to. And so I noticed that physically and mentally, there was something happening in unison. And I was drawn to it. I started just being more attracted to it. And it developed over time into now weight training, strength training, things like that. But I say all of that to say that I've just been more aware of the seasons that I'm going through versus trying to avoid it. Because each season or each level, I guess, brings like a different pain and a new thing in my life, like digging into like baggage that needs to be let go, sorted out, you know, organized. I don't mean like organizing your baggage, but putting in place what needs to be put in place and then releasing what needs to be released. So that's something that has been helping me build mental fortitude. And it's not easy, but one of the things that I will say that has come with time is speaking about it, right? Like if you're bothered by something, naturally when we feel pain, we want to retreat. We want to close up because we don't want to let anybody in because it hurts. And let me just deal with it. It's kind of like, I have it. But now when I find myself experiencing a moment of pain, I do pray. I know it sounds cliche, but I pray because it just releases a lot. I write, but also I got to keep in mind who I have around me, which is my husband almost all of the time. And so I'm learning now to be more, to communicate clearly with him because he can feel my vibe. You know, he asked me, he's like, "Are you okay?" And we have like that, we were like, nothing. There's like a funny meme that I've seen about women, like a man will ask her, "Are you okay?" She's like, "Or what's going on?" He's like, you know, the woman would say nothing, but there's really a whole bunch going on behind it. And it was funny because recently it happened and he had asked me, he was like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Nothing." The reality was I was ready to like explode inside. And I had to take a step back. He asked me again. And that's when I like just told him, because I thought of that meme, but something like that can help, you know, like that's what memes are. It was created, if I'm not mistaken, by like a psychologist or something to kind of help people do therapy. And so I thought about it and I was like, man, when a man asks you that, like for me, as like just advice to myself, my husband asks me what's going on, like speak to him, because that's when the guy's like, he wants to know what's going on, you know? Like that's when he really cares. he cares all the time, but you know what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Like when he asks, it's because it's important to him, because you're important to him, and that's how health is developed, you know, and it's better. I don't have the
Yeah.
answers. I'm just saying my own personal experience.
Yeah. Yeah. None of us are professionals in that field. And, each individual is different. What works for one person won't necessarily work for another person. Some people, you know, uh, the medication works. Some people medication don't work. Brandon, sir,
What's up, man?
from your perspective, how do you handle the situation that you're with your wife?
Um, I think the most important part with me and Sam's situation is I'm her support system. There's a lot she's been through that I don't want to talk about, but there's a lot she's been through mentally that I help her with. And with being with her, I feel like that's my job to do.
Hmm.
With being her spouse, that's my job to do to help her through what she's been through. Especially with her oldest son. And we like she said, we work it out. We take one step at a time, day by day. It's nothing that is anything that's going to change right away. But I'm her biggest support system. I'm her shoulder that she leans on. Whatever she needs during those times where she does feel weak. That's what us as men, and I'm just speaking for us men in general, where we need to step up, because women deal with a lot that they don't really speak on, and I've really had to learn that myself. They go through a lot that they won't really speak on. They by nature they just do what they have to do, especially with women that have children, and I just be her biggest support system, man. There's been countless times where we've had to talk, and I've had to talk her down when she's gotten into an anxiety. I've had to be there to hold her when she's going through that mental struggle, and just let her know that I'm there, and that she doesn't have to go through it alone. That's one of our big things in this relationship, is that neither one of us has to go through anything alone. So to answer your question, that's what I am to the situation, and that's how I help within the situation.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so that's how we all need to be whenever we, have friends or family members or people that we know that we're connected to that is, have these type of issues going on. We have to be that support system. We have a message from Linda. Said this, everybody can read, is very overwhelming and emotionally draining. But ironically, whenever I do get a break from my children, I feel incomplete and guilty for not having them. I've been a mother of 2 children for 7 years, and I think I've just learned to function in the chaos at this point. Huge point. I think that a lot of women and men too, everybody from one point, you get to the point where you just learn how to function in that chaos. But however, don't take it don't take it lightly that you're functioning, because that's a huge victory if you're able to maintain, the proper perspective or the proper attitude in the midst of it. Because obviously you can't just move the chaos from you, but what you can control is yourself. And by you functioning properly within the middle of that, you realize, just like she was mentioned, that it's just a season or it's just a time. And so it's going to pass. And so I think that's a very important point. And you don't have to feel guilty. Get your conscience is what's convicting, what convicts all of us. Our conscience, we look at things and say, hey, I don't compare up to that. That's your conscience. It's not the actual person, that's doing stuff. It's you agreeing with what you've read or agreeing with what you see. And once you understand the importance of you controlling your own conscience, your whole world changes. Your whole world changes, and you don't have to view yourself as not good enough or, not productive enough, or whatever the situation is. You can change the outlook. I read in the book, it said once your perspective changes, the actual incident or issue changes, which is true. So I want to talk a little bit about medication. So we know that, a lot of times you get diagnosed and it's always, some of the studies come out saying that, some type of some of these issues are chemical imbalances. And so they try to, manage the chemicals with medication and stuff like that. And so sometimes it works for some people and for some people it don't work. What do you guys think about that as far as is it important to be on medication or whatnot?
Let's start with Miss Joe.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm absolutely not prepared, so I'm not turning my camera on.
It's okay. It's okay.
That's just your conscience telling you that you're okay.
Oh, no. It's a mirror telling me that. It's a mirror. But I will give you a little bit of my background. I actually did work in mental health for 4 years.
Hey.
Awesome.
And I absolutely loved it. I did case management for 3 years, and I was a supervisor for my last year there when we lived up in Pennsylvania or whatnot. I absolutely love working with people who have mental health because, for one, they're so honest and they're the most honest people I feel like. And they know, I feel like they obviously know they're going through something. I feel like people hand them a short stick so often, and they don't give them the benefit of the doubt. They treat them like they can't do anything. And I just hated that so much because they're people. They're just going through things, and nobody's life is perfect, right? So when I worked with my clients, I pretty much let them run the show, and let them understand, hey, your mental health and your treatment of your mental health is your mental health. Don't let the doctors and the counselors tell you what to do. You know your body, you know what works for you and what doesn't work for you. All I'm asking is if they start you on medication, just give it some time to work, right? Because sometimes, depending on the medications take like 2 months to actually build up in your system and work. But I understand, a lot of those medications make them feel like zombies. And I wouldn't want to feel like a zombie either, right? Like walking around, you got kids to take care of, you have a family and responsibilities. It affects everything, And I also have family that's been diagnosed with mental health. Me personally, I haven't been diagnosed, but everyone, whether you're diagnosed or not, you've dealt with some kind of mental health. And if you want to, I guess, I don't know, maybe I walk around with a chip on my shoulder for people who think they're fine. I always find out they're the worst. You probably need medication. Right now, you are not doing okay. But yeah, so that's my experience in a quick roundabout way, whatnot. But I'm sorry, I forgot your question because I saw the comment on the screen. But I will comment to Leslie's comment, and thank you, ladies, for sharing your story. I have 2 little girls, and you guys know that. And, yes, children will drive you up a wall, and women, I will say for myself, yeah, you do feel guilty because you feel like, oh my God, those are my kids. I should love them. I should want to be around them all the time. But it wasn't until I made the decision, when they reached toddler age, because they're close in age, that I was like, well, you know what? Yes. Speaking of toddlers. Okay, you need to go. Mama. Okay. Puppy to the rescue. So, but yeah, I had to learn to not feel guilty and understand that you're human, and if you need time, it's so important that you get that time because you're going to take it out on your children. Whether that's yelling or whatever, you will, right? You're going to be less patient, less happy, and your children can feel that, right? There's been times because they're they can go play in their rooms or whatever. There's been times where I went in my room and I shut the door and I sat in there for 5 minutes, to give myself a break. You have to do that, and it's so important. But it doesn't mean that, you're a bad mother or a bad parent. And it goes for fathers too. Like if you feel like you're at that edge, you need to do something just to kind of bring you back down to earth a little bit. And then you take it day by day, like you were saying. That's what you do with mental health. Take it day by day. And
Day by day. Yep.
Day by
Moment-
day.
Moment by moment.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, mental health is very near and dear to my heart. I didn't work in mental health moving down here because Florida, they need all kind of certifications. It's kind of weird. But I see mental health lacking here in this county because in Pennsylvania, it was so different. They had so many resources for people with mental health. And then I come down here, I'm like, what is this? How are people supposed to get the proper help? Like it's lacking. It really, really is lacking. And that's another thing. If you can't get the proper help that you need and you're dealing with, and I'm not going to say they're bad providers, but you're dealing with providers that all they want to do is medicate, right?
Yeah.
That's not a good thing, right? Because everybody doesn't want medication. Everybody doesn't need medication. And it's kind of like what the ladies were saying. You need someone to listen to you, hear what you're saying and to talk to you. Like the doctors I worked with in Pennsylvania, they would not prescribe medication until you signed up for counseling as well, right? They didn't want you to just medicate. They wanted you to deal with the issues that you had, talk through them, because depression can be situational. Anxiety can be situational. Like, it doesn't always mean it's chemical. So yeah, I can go on and on and on about this because I love it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about chemical. I read some articles. They did some study that it is actually a little less to do with chemicals. I read some studies from UCLA that the information is changing, because before that's what we was taught. That's what they discovered, or however they discovered their studies. So they started flooding information that is chemicals, and so obviously that helps the pharmaceutical sector to be able to sell the drugs or the stuff like that. But there's our studies coming in to realizing that it's not necessarily chemical. There is some chemical aspects to the body, but as far as the issues, they can be solved without having to deal with some certain medications. Meaning that just because your chemicals are perfect now, that doesn't mean you're not going to have these issues.
It's like Melissa was saying, you got to deal with the baggage, right?
Yes,
right?
exactly.
You have to deal with the baggage. It's not going to go away, and I feel like people think taking medication is going to solve everything. And no, I've met some interesting people in my life, work with peer supports. I don't know if any of you know what that is, but they pretty much go out and talk to people with mental health. They have mental health themselves. Amazing stories. Like I know a woman, she was perfectly fine. Her life was perfect. She didn't have any issues. And the love of her life, and I can say this because she's made this public, but the love of her life pretty much ended things with her. And the next morning, she was found wandering the streets, did not even know she was doing that. She wandered all night long and ended up on medication. Like people, let's get real. Like, I agree, coach. Like me personally, they say it's chemical and I say sometimes it's chemical, but I always told my people I work with, go to counseling, talk to someone, because if you don't talk about this stuff, it's killing you, it's gotta handle that stuff.
Right. Interesting you say with the chemical, because when you stress, like you release like certain things, right?
Yeah.
Cortisol and things like that. So obviously, like
adrenaline.
that, right? So there's that aspect to it. Like too much of it, you're producing too much of it, that can cause some imbalance, right? But then it goes to I don't want to lose my train of thought here, because something that Joe has said and that you had said, Coach, but also knowing the outside factors, right? Because sometimes it's not all inside of you, like it's not all you. Like there's external factors that affect your thought process. And if you're not careful to think about what you're thinking about, then the external factors can make you feel like it's you, you know?
Mhm.
Like if you're not quick to catch what's going on, like if something rises up within you, like as a woman, you have hormones, they rise during certain times of the month. If you're not careful to harness those, then it can easily go into it's me. Like, okay, I'm guilty for this. And then you start going into a whirlwind of things. And I say because it's happened, you know. And so when it comes up, it's still important to pay attention to it, but harness it in a way that it just doesn't spiral you out of control. And again, it's difficult, but to Joe's point, and I'm sure that it's the central message here, is reaching out and speaking to someone, because as much as we want to, like, or I speak for myself, this is all for me, that I want to do everything on my own. I could do it and this and that. And somewhere along the lines of our life, we were just programmed to say, I got it. Like, I. And that has caused such an amount of just exhaustion, because back to last week, like, we really weren't made to do life alone. You know, like it takes a village. Somebody put it takes a village, and it's so true. But it goes into every other aspect of it. Now, I know that for myself, I've experienced disappointments with like confiding or sharing or being transparent with somebody and feeling like it wasn't taken correctly, you know, or it was twisted and so forth. And that can cause somebody to shut down a lot, not just a woman, I think a man also. But that's also healing, you know? Like, it's crazy because mental health involves, even for me, healing from that, from those disappointments, you know, that could cause me to either close up or to open up and speak to somebody about it. So it just adds layer to layer. It's a lot of sorrows, but there's hope in between. Like, there's hope intertwined in everything, you know?
Yeah.
So I got a question for everybody on the panel. Because majority of us are either married or in some type of relationship. So is it hard to talk to your significant other, or can you talk to them, or like how do you get out and speak to somebody at times, I guess?
I can go on that one, Nick. Because I'm gonna just be honest and say it's always, sometimes it's hard to talk with Sam. And Sam know that I struggle with expressing myself sometimes. Telling her what's going on in my mind and telling her what's going on as far as my mental health. And I know it bothers her because she can feel the energy. She'll tell me all the time, I can feel when something's wrong. And she's not the first person I walk around and say, I'm good. Nick know it. You know what I'm saying? My brothers know it. My sister know it. I'll tell somebody I'm good right off the top of the bat before I'll express myself. So I know that's something I need to get better within my own walk of life, is being able to talk and just listening to all these ladies on the show. And I just want to say thank y'all for coming on and speaking about your personal issues. It takes some big heart to do that, especially on live where everybody's looking and listening. We really do appreciate y'all for that. But I struggle with opening up, and that's my thing. I'm still trying to work on it. I'm struggling with talking about what goes on in my mental. I'm a high value thinker. I was talking with Coach A before the show and saying that I can't sleep at times because my mind is still running. And like he mentioned to me with some good advice he gave me, he's like, you got to take control of that. You know what I'm saying? I have control of my mental. So, and I think what it could help with my mental, not only with spiritually, because I am spiritual, what can help with my mental is opening up. So I know, just to answer Nick's question, it's just, and with me and Sam's relationship, it gets hard for me to open up when I know I need to open up. And I know, and there's something in the back of my head knows that if I open up and I speak on what's going on in my head, that it can help. But there's still a wall there for some odd reason where I just don't open up. So and that's something that, like I said, I need to work on within myself, within my relationship, so I don't have to walk around feeling like I'm carrying a burden as far as my mental health is concerned.
Yeah, I mean it's always difficult when you have to communicate your feelings to the significant other. One of the things you could do is pick a day. It doesn't have to be every single day. You can pick a day. You guys come to an agreement. Pick a day that this is the day that we're going to talk about the whole week, about what happened, about how we're feeling, about this, about that, whatever it is. And then if you set in your head early that on this day this is what I'm going to do, you commit to that mentally, and then on that day it's going to be a lot easier because you're actually doing what you've been thinking about all week. It's kind of like training yourself. You're telling yourself, hey, on this day we're going to communicate, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And so you will find it easier to communicate. Y'all just sit and talk about everything that you want to talk about, that you just that happened during the week or whatever it is that's getting to you. And then at the same time, I feel like it's important to again have a design plan to bring your life back to peace, to get to alleviate yourself from the stress and from what's going on. And obviously you can't pack up and move yourself from the situation, but mentally you can pack up and focus on something positive, just because you understand it helps. Just because you understand it helps.
Right. So then somebody else elaborate on that question.
Melissa, you want to go?
Yeah, I think I'm the same way. Sometimes it's hard to talk about some things because those are the vulnerable moments, right? That you almost don't want to open up because all of the other factors that I was mentioning. We face rejection, we face judgment, we've faced it if we're not facing it now. And those things, those unknowns, in a sense, can get you a little bit intimidated to open up. So, that's why I say sometimes it could be difficult. But I think that in marriage, it's a safe place. For me, it should be a safe place. I mean, that's what it was created for. And I think that even though it's a safe place, that it still can be difficult. But it's a blessing after, especially when you start to know your spouse and their way of communicating. I know Gary has this book called the 5 Love Languages, and I just briefed through it honestly, but there's different ways that our spouses love. There's different love languages, and also learning that and utilizing it in that communication. But other than that, I think it's getting easier. There's always going to be a challenge. But I think that when we think it's getting easier, then there's something else that will challenge that, you're convinced of something, but then it's going to challenge you because it's only going to build it stronger, home for us is peace. And that's how I associate our home. It's peaceful. So when we speak, it's peaceful, even though we may feel some type of way, I want to always cultivate that. And make it a safe place that my husband can communicate, and then a safe place where I can communicate. I know that it's hard for both of us in certain situations, but again, it's learning, it's just observing. And I remember, I'll finish with this, years ago, I did a training for one of the jobs that I used to have in the past, and one of the trainings was a psychologist or a coach of some sort. And he was teaching us the art of communication, and he was teaching us the art of dialogue, and how he utilized an example of a marriage that he was giving therapy to. And one of the assignments that he had given the spouses, because they were having a lot of marital issues and they were pretty much on the brink of divorce, and he just gave them an assignment. He goes, I want you as the wife to take a walk, do something with your husband outdoors, out of the house, and listen to him speak for 1 hour and don't say a word to him. And it was for both of them, and the man had to do the same thing. And it was over a period of time that they had to do this certain days of the week. An hour of speaking, nobody can say anything. They were just kind of nodding and acknowledging. And at the end of it, their marriage became so much more stronger because they realized there was a lot of things that they were speaking about that wasn't being heard. And it wasn't being heard, so it wasn't being heeded to, and they had grown cold, or there was a wedge driven between them. But at the end of it, their marriage became just rock solid because they realized that they weren't listening. And so I think that's just what it goes down to, listening and speaking, and.
Absolutely.
Hey Maria, you want to answer that question?
Hey Nick, before Maria jump on real quick, Drip is showing on the screen.
Yeah, welcome back, Mr. Drip.
Welcome back, Mr. Drip. You are.
He got the hex off him, Jimmy. He back, Jimmy.
I had to circumvent that Jimmy virus.
I'm sorry, Maria. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. Can you tell me the question one more time?
I think I said basically in a roundabout way, like can you vent and do you vent to your significant other?
So for me, it's hard to vent to him because he doesn't, especially when I'm going through one of my depressive episodes, because he doesn't really understand what's going on, and I don't know how to communicate with him to help me through it, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So for me, for example, when I am really bad mentally, I just want someone around me. We don't have to talk. I don't need to explain it to you. You don't have to be, what's going on in my face. I just need somebody next to me, just sitting with me or lay on the bed with me, whatever the case may be. That's how I like to, or how I can get through it, I guess. But yeah, for me, it's hard with him because even if I wanted to speak on it, it's really hard for him to understand what I'm going through or why I'm going through it.
Perfect.
Yep, that's good. It's important because different, people deal with their situations differently. Some people, it just, again, it depends on the individual. Some people want to, the interaction, they want to hear, that everything's going okay. And some people don't want to hear nothing. They just want you to be right next to them. Right. Drip, since we got your camera going again.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can hear you, bro. You good.
So we all working. Well, as you guys know, I divulged a couple of shows back, or maybe even last week, that I've been to therapy, and it helped me with my communication. Now, with that being said, with me and my wife, it's easier for me to open up to her about the things that I'm thinking and feeling and going through and how I perceive things, whereas before it wasn't. So I found that invaluable tool because it helps me when I'm going through a certain situation, certain time of day, to be able to turn to her and say, this, is affecting me and I'm seeing it this way, and I feel a certain type of way, about this. So, and as usual, she listen and we'll go through it, and I'm able to put that event or situation, in better perspective and move on from it because we come up, with some solutions and some ideas of how for myself not to feel that way. And, it's kind of hard, to do that, with your significant other. I mean, for me, because I'm like, Mr., fix it, Mr., whatever the problem is, I have all the answers. And I had to learn that it was okay not to have all the answers. Right. Just, to say, I don't know, and that's okay for me not to know. And so from a woman's perspective, what I would like to ask the ladies you know, is something like that I've been curious about. You know, like motherhood. How do you guys deal with motherhood via where you're with the father or a single mom? As Melissa, I know you don't have any kids. So for you, does that weigh on your mind? Like, I don't know if you want kids or whatever, but either way, if you want kids and don't have them right now, does that affect you? Or if you don't want kids, how does that affect you mentally as well?
That's a good question, Drip, because I think about it all the time. That's one of the, I would say, one of the top three things that I have in my mind is motherhood, because I do have a desire for motherhood. And my husband, we already spoke about it, and we agreed. We're on the same page, right? I remember years ago, I did not want any children, you know, and I was very adamant about it. Like I told my mom, I don't want children. I don't, and my mindset was different then. Now it's different. Now I'm married. Now things are in place the way that it should be. The way that it weighs on me, and the questions that I have faced is, man, am I going to be a good mother? You know, that's like at the top of my mind. And I think that having this conversation, there's a purpose for it, because I know that I'm going to be that. You know, like my goal is that, but to be who God created me to be, and work on the things that I need to work on now, because I feel like there's still some areas in my life that need to be worked on prior that season of my life. But to answer your question, yes, it does affect me, but I don't let it take over me. It's something that it comes to my mind, and you know, if I feel like it weighs on me, then I don't know, I'll grab a book or something. You know, like I'll look up something on motherhood. I'll look up like a topic to kind of just enlighten me a little bit. I'm not saying that I'm going to learn motherhood from a book. What I'm saying is, when I have like a insecurity before even being a mother, but I know that I have that within me, then I find a way to get it out of my mind. Like if it's something that's just weighing on me, like I'm looking at the next step to take this worry off of me, if that makes any sense, right? But in a way that it teaches me me something, and that I'm not like broken over it. You know what I mean? Because if I stay on that thought too long, then it goes into another question. Like, am I going to be a good mother? Oh, maybe this might come up, and then you start entertaining all these thoughts, and I don't want to entertain all these other thoughts. So I get it, I catch it, and I throw it out. And then when it happens, kind of a thing. You know?
And that was a great question, Drip. And I know it kind of went away from Nick's question, but I want to get back to this question because I want to hear Coach A's perspective on it too. But I want to ask one real quick question to Nick on Drip's question, because and this is if you want to talk about it. I know T's not here to really speak about it, but you know, you're T's husband, so I know what the thought of having children. What's the mental stability when you guys have that conversation about having children? Because I know you guys want children. So if you want to elaborate on that, Nick, as far as what Drip was asking about, you know, what's your mental health around having children? How does that affect you and T, and what's the type of conversations you have with her?
It is tough, and it's tougher for her also. I mean, we talk about it every blue moon. She'll get emotional. I really don't talk about it just because I know how touchy it is with her. But yeah, it's tough not knowing or what's the reason of why you haven't had kids yet. Right. So, but for me, I just feel like, you know, whenever they come, they come. And if they do, they do. And if they don't, they don't. But it's a tough conversation, and it brings up stuff, especially like I said, when you've been married for 10 years, and you kind of got, you know, the house, the home, the cars, the financial stability, and then all you waiting for is, you know, the kids. We got the dogs, so it's tough. Like I said, we talk about it. She'll get emotional every blue moon, and I just listen to her or whatever, and it's just one of those things like. I can't do nothing to. I mean, other than comfort her, but I can't do anything else but that.
Perfect. Awesome. So now we can go back to Nick's earlier question, and I want to hear Coach A's perspective on how conversating with your wife when things go on, or just your perspective about how that operation works with you and your wife.
Well, a couple things when he talked about initial talking deeply about certain things, and so a lot of times it is difficult to really communicate with with me. For me, I'm the same way. My perspective is so positive that sometimes I don't even recognize if there's something wrong with me, or if there's because I don't believe in having bad days, or whatever the situation, because I've had just recently I had two of my kids got in car accidents. One of them had to have staples in their head, and and it was fine, but their cars was totaled, and it could have been a lot worse. And so that was a conversation that I had. Ordinarily, I would just keep it to myself and just kind of deal with these things. But, I just told my wife about it, and, she asked me if I was okay, and I was, I was okay with it. And so my wife is the opposite. She'll tell me everything that's going on, everything for the whole day. She's a great communicator in that aspect. She loves to, let me know how she's feeling and what's going on and all these different things. And me, just like the typical man, I would just kind of keep it in. But it works for me because I have my own methods. Unless it's something that we need to talk about, then I'll bring it to light like that. But other than that, I just kind of stay focused. One of the things that I do notice that we always make sure that whenever we're done talking about it, we just kind of leave it there, like we'll get back to having a peaceful home, or, having a great communication. We don't try not to carry those things, with us. And so that just helps within our home. But yeah, man, I'm just like some of you other guys, I kind of hold a lot of my stuff in, or, don't really communicate, and just, that's just me, But I feel like me personally, and this is just me, I've learned how over the years I've learned how to take control of my thoughts. I learned how to take control of my thoughts and my perspective, so that my emotions don't get involved in a lot of those things. And that keeps me a lot more sane. It keeps me, focused on being able to, come up with ideas to solve the problem, or just deal with it all together. And that just kind of helps me personally. And I think that is very important that we learn how to do some of those things.
So I got a quick question for everybody.
Hold on, Nick. I don't think Joe got in. She still with us? Because I love to know, just to elaborate on Nick's question. How do you and Dante express y'all feelings, or express yourself as far as mental health is concerned? How do you guys go through that when one person's having a bad day? What's the situations and the activities that happens to get through that?
Okie dokie. Wow. Well, y'all know we've been together a long time.
Yeah.
And y'all know Dante. I'm complete opposite of Dante, okay?
Yeah.
So one thing that I feel like has helped us, I had to learn what kind of communicator he is. Because I can talk and talk, but he's the type, if he needs a minute, I need to give him a minute. Right? Have to. Don't follow your spouse or your significant other. If they're like, give me a minute, stop following them. Quit, okay? Because that's not going to end well, because they're not ready to talk, right? So just respect them, pretty much. I mean, we've done just about everything. Things have gotten a lot better now, of course, but there was even a point where even Dante couldn't feel like he could talk to me, and so he had to write me a letter. And that's how he could get his thoughts through. He's not someone who talks about his feelings. And I think that's just a guy thing. And he knows it. So sometimes when something is going on with him, I can ask him and he'll look me dead in my face and say, I'm fine. When I know he's not fine, he's, I won't say stomping around the house, but he's upset, walking around the house, So I'm like, something's not right. And me, I'm the type of person like, tell me what I did so I can apologize and we can squash it, right? I don't want it hanging around in the atmosphere, right? I try to keep the peace, but no relationship is perfect. So now it's crazy because I swear every job that I've had that's been in mental health field and a job I have now, they have all of these trainings that we do and even our clients do that I've found very helpful in my own life, right? Effective communication, like give them time to speak. I know it's normal for people to overtalk each other, especially when you're getting heated and in the moment. Like Coach said, we try to put things on a shelf. Sometimes you just gotta put things away. Right now, it's not gonna work. We're not understanding each other, and we'll come back to it another time because everybody's upset at this moment, right? And when you're upset, you're not listening to everything somebody's saying. Let's just, be honest about that when you are really upset. So we kind of do a mixture of things, and if you need to get your minute and go for a walk or leave or do something, your significant other is all right with that. It's not like you're storming out of the house, then go ahead and do it. That's pretty much how we handle it. We're still figuring it out all these years, right? It's never going to be perfect, because there are different situations in life. You're going to have different milestones that you're going to have to reach together. And, if you've never tackled something before, that's something new. God knows, buying a house, that's a whole nother monster in itself. Children, that's another thing. Like, marriage, the wedding, like all that stuff. Like, you're going to argue. And I will say, if you don't ever argue, you're not in a healthy relationship. I'll tell you that. I can tell you that with experience, you're not. So a little bit of disagreement is good, right? But, to a limit. But if you're not arguing, that means you're not talking. So that's a problem.
Coach, I like your idea that you said about setting a day. Joe, thank you for sharing that. That was very helpful. Very helpful. But I like the idea of setting a day. Like setting a day.
That was tight.
That was cool. I mean, I kind of do it, but it's like being intentional. Like I like the idea of like being intentional behind that. We have like date nights and all that stuff. So I'm always asking questions, right? But I like that. I'm going to implement that too, or be more intentional on implementing that. So it's cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that way, because guys naturally we don't, sometimes we don't like to talk all the time. So, but if you put us on the spot, if there's a particular day, then it'll be easier for us because women, sometimes you can communicate every night, every day. You just, this is what happened today. Like between me and my wife, she got probably over 15,000 words. And I'm like 200.
That was good.
But however, at the same time, though, she be like, yeah, but you get on that podcast and talk a lot. I'm like, what? You got me. Like,
I said that to Dante before.
Yes, yeah. But the reason being is because it's perspective. One thing that in Justin, I was reading Justin comment, and he had made a huge point about different people, different things work for different people, and that's absolutely true. Everything is not going to work for everybody, but I feel like it's important to understand that we're all created the same way, meaning the way we get to these points, like we get to a depressive state or we get to a, anxiety state, all those things happen identically in each and every person, meaning you have to process something, you have to think about something, you have to take a perspective on something in order for your emotion to latch on to it in whatever way. If you get angry, if you get upset, if you get mad, because nobody is going to look at something and enjoy it or like it, meaning they have that perspective and then react a certain way. So it's all about processing. And so, Melissa, you said it before. You said whenever you get a thought, you try to take it out. And I feel like that's a key when it comes to our first defense, is realizing that this is not a good thought, and that we have a technique in place to change the thought or to get the thought out. Like maybe you need to read a book, or maybe you need to call somebody, or you need to repeat something to yourself over and over again. And that will help in a lot of these instances because we're our first defense. Because just like, somebody else mentioned that nobody can really fix or save us or, fix our problems, but we can fix by turning it around. Like, what might be a problem, if you turn it around and just looks like something that needs to be solved or is no longer a problem, is no longer an issue, you look at it as a learning experience. However you need to do to change your perspective, it will help you. It will help you, because that's the only way our emotions are driven, based on our perception, what we feel about a certain situation or how we feel about ourselves. And that's the things that I worked on and was able to, kind of take control over that situation. And don't let those thoughts run wild. That's the key, is not letting those thoughts run wild. So yes, there's different techniques when you're in that situation. If you're already angry or and you're in that particular emotional state, then dealing with that might be different from this person. Somebody might need to talk to somebody might need to take something, or that's different. But the key is, how do you prevent getting to that stage? So I want to know what I got a question for you guys. I want to know, how do you guys agree or disagree? How important are your thoughts when it comes to your mental state? I feel like that's an important question as well.
Yeah, your thoughts are very important. That's a good question, Coach A. Your thoughts is it's surrounding the mental health, right? So it's important, and you say it all the time, it's important to think positive. It's important to wake up and not think that today is going to be a bad day. You know what I'm saying? It's very important, and that our mental health drives, the thoughts drives our mental health, I should say. So and I can only speak for myself. I got to do better at waking up and being like, all right, today finna be rocking. You know what I'm saying? I ain't finna have no issues. I ain't finna let nothing down me. I know I'm one of those people that can let something get to me real quick. You know what I'm saying? And I can't wake up thinking, all right, this person gonna get to me, or if this person say something a certain type of way, that's gonna get to me. So our thoughts kind of drives our mental health, and you said it earlier, you said it on the last podcast, we gotta control our thoughts. You know what I'm saying? I can only speak with myself. When I go to thinking like that, my thoughts are between me and God, and I gotta hit, and God gotta talk to me. You know what I'm saying? I gotta allow God to come in my thoughts and help me deviate those thoughts away from how I drive my day. So I don't know if that answered the question, but
yeah, absolutely.
But
I want to
go ahead.
Same question. I want to direct it to Maria, because she mentioned that sometimes she go through these stages in and out of whatever the situation is, and I want to see your perspective on how much do you believe or you understand that your thinking process plays a factor in this, in how you feel.
I want to say a lot, but if I'm being honest, I can't really change that. I know for some people it's easy to pull themselves out of a bad state of mind. They think of something positive, whatever the case may be. But for me, it's a lot different. When I get into those thoughts, it's really hard for me to pull myself out. So what I usually do is once I'm to a point where I just can't take it anymore, I can lay in my bed, and the only time I get up is to pee. Like I won't eat. Sorry, that might have been a little TMI, but I'm being honest.
It's okay.
I'll lay in my bed. I can lay in my bed for 3 days, 4 days, not move, not get up. I know it's going to sound bad because, again, I am a mom. My kids are going to be 9 and 10. So, and I guess I can start by saying I am from a Hispanic household. So we teach our kids very young to clean, wash clothes, do simple meals, things like that. So my kids have known how to do things like that for a very long time. They'll cook rice and all that stuff by themselves. So when I get into that state and I'm there in bed, they know, because I'm very open and honest with my kids. I know a lot of people, they try to shelter their kids from those things. I'm not. I never will be. Nobody can change my mind on that because I'm gonna raise my kids the way I see fit to raise them, and I'm not going to lie or try to beat around the bush. I'd rather them know, hey, this is what's going on with me. This is what it's called. This is what happens when I go through it. So they know when I'm in bed, it's for a reason, and then they'll handle themselves. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for me, it's really hard to change my thoughts when I'm at that state. And it just takes time for it to wear off or go away by itself. I don't know how to really explain it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, that's how I deal.
So what's actually wearing off is that those you would say is the thoughts that you know that you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
So there have.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was saying, is that what you're saying? When you say that it takes, so you're in the bed and you're waiting on this
to pass.
This to pass.
Mm-hmm.
What you're actually waiting on to pass is the thoughts.
Right.
It's the thought. You're actually waiting on your thinking to change from I need to be in this bed right now to it's okay for me to get up.
Right.
Okay. And so the question is, what techniques have you tried to use in order to change your thoughts? Or do you just lay there and be like, I'm gonna wait for this thought to go, or be like, I need to get out and I just don't? Have you actually tried some techniques on changing your thoughts?
I have, and honestly, it just depends on how deep into it I got myself. So if I'm really deep into my thoughts, I don't do anything. But when there's times where I start to feel it come on, and then I write a lot. So I have, like, for example, this notebook, I've had maybe 6 or 7 notebooks before this, where I just start to write, and it would be the most random of things that maybe aren't even the reason why I'm in that thought process anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say I had a really, really bad day and just mentally I'm not here. I will literally write about shoes. Let's throw out something really stupid like that. I will write about shoes, different types of shoes, what kinds of shoes there are, how many different colors. I will write about things, and that, as weird as it sounds, it helps me if I'm not too deep in my thoughts to change my thought process. And then I'm like, why am I writing about shoes? Let me get up. Let me go do something.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I can start thinking about other things.
I think that's good. That's the technique. You're taking your mind off of whatever it is, the negative thoughts that you have, and focusing on shoes.
Right.
You know, or focusing on your writing. You smiling, but you write about Jordans.
No,
Hey, do they rhyme? You might
No.
be a rapper.
No,
Right,
they
I
don't
was just
rhyme at
saying.
all.
You know, it might just be missing a different word at the end, and you got to rap. So.
Right.
But that's an important technique that people use, you know, and you can, you know, use that. You can be more instead of just doing it during that time, you can use it and be more having more of a design. Like, you know, you have a schedule that you write. You take time and sit and you write about this early so that you never just write when you're in a bad state. You're writing continually. And you
Right.
never know how this writing is going to transpire, what it's going to turn into, how it's going to help. You don't know, you know. You want to read some of it?
Of my writing?
Yeah. I
Oh,
mean, it's up to you, but
Maria, you ain't got to if you don't want
yeah, you don't have to.
to.
it gets too
So,
deep. A lot of things get too deep. So
Got you.
yeah.
Got you. So,
Is there any questions from you ladies that y'all? What's up, Melissa?
No, I said to Maria, thank you.
Oh,
yeah. Thank you for that. That's awesome.
Is there any questions from you ladies that you would probably like to ask us, man, about I guess anything? Like why we do the things we do, why we think the way we think, why
We can't answer for all men.
No, we can't. We
Yeah.
can't. But they can probably get a little insight.
You do.
No, that's not what he meant. That's not
Hey,
what he
that's
meant.
for a different. That's for a different episode. That is for a different
That's
episode.
good. That's good. I did want to add something. And I'll probably
Yeah, I was
ask
just about
something
to
too.
say.
There's an add and ask, but for me, like what I've been learning, and again, this has been happening through like self-development. I wasn't as keen on self-development as I am now, and I think that something that has helped me is that we have thoughts, we have beliefs, and we have actions. And our beliefs is actually like at the core of everything. And that is what actually forms the thought. And then when you think about what you believe, then that drives the action. And so that is something that I like had to rearrange, because before it was my thought, then belief, then the action. So my action was always going to be crappy because I was coming from a place of my thought and not actually what I believed. So when I had that paradigm, for me it was like, okay, what am I believing? And then what am I going to think about the situation? And then how am I going to act about the situation? So that's something that has helped me to kind of just realign. So it's just BTA, belief, thought, action. And it's just, how can I get solidified on my belief about something and then act, you know? And the reason why I said that is because for a lot of years I was living like victim almost, you know, like, oh, what about me? But no, it was like, what are you believing about your situation? And you know, being people that we grew up in many different, like from different backgrounds, we've seen different things. It's been rough for everybody. We're not exempt from a hard life. And so I think it's a lot of what we've seen forms our belief. Like, you know, like this probably is going to be my fate, or it's going to be my destiny. But the reality is we can spark change in our generation. Like we can spark change in our family tree. I 100% believe that. So because I believe that, I know that my thought it's going to be a result. It's going to be a reflection of what my belief is. And when my thoughts don't reflect a healthy belief, then I got to go back to my belief system. And what do I believe about this? Like, do I believe that I can heal from this wound? Do I believe that I can heal from what happened here? And then act on it. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Like, that's how I've been able to. But my question is, why do you guys act like that?
Because we believe it.
Hey, Melissa, like I said, that's for a different episode.
Right. No, I don't have anything. Listen, if there's something else that's so important is that not to break people down. You know, like wherever they're going through, men and women. We see all around us that people are breaking other people down for certain things or for how they choose to act and what they choose to do. And I think that that's why we are where we are now, broken, and we're leading from a place of brokenness. And leading from a place of brokenness will bring more brokenness, you know?
Yeah.
So I am not ever going to be like, yo, dogging a man out. Like, I just don't believe in that. I think we got to build each other up, so.
Gotta lead like LeBron.
Stop that.
Oh my
Stop.
God. There you
Can
go.
somebody mute his mic, please?
I got it. I got it.
Somebody mute his mic, please.
He ain't
I
gonna do
think-
nothing but unmute it.
I think Joe had a question too.
Or a
I
comment,
didn't
yeah.
have a question. I just wanted to make a comment.
Oh, okay.
What?
My bad.
It's okay. It's okay. What we were talking about, because Melissa and Maria made good points, and I've been like sitting on pens because of something you said, B, a long time ago, and I'm like, oh, it's turned back to this now. So I'm a thinker, okay, and I do think a lot. So I do believe that your night can affect your next day. Okay. So, and I've seen this with clients I've worked with myself. If you had a horrible night and you're not sleeping, or you're having lack of sleep, or you can't control your thoughts, like you said, B, the next morning you're going to wake up in a bad mood. I don't care what nobody say, because you're going to be thinking about that. Okay. So, some of the things that I've shared with some of my clients is, if you can't control your thoughts at night, and I've seen it work, get a notepad, get a pen, and write down what's on your mind so you can have it there. Because if you put it on that notepad, you're probably going to be able to go to sleep. And then the next morning, you can look at it and say, okay, do I need to do that? Even with stuff you have to do. Oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, you know, just write it down, put on a notepad, and try to go to sleep, right? Because that's really important, because at least you know you're not going to forget it, because I feel like a lot of people, they don't want to forget, so they keep thinking about it. And I'm not talking about like horrible intrusive thoughts. I'm just talking about things that are, you know, that were on your mind. Another thing Maria said, journal, right? If you write, definitely will help. Like, and I'll speak from my own experience. Like, if I've dealt with things that, I don't know, that's hurt me so bad emotionally, I couldn't necessarily talk to that person, because, you know, that relationship was pretty much done and it wouldn't be beneficial to do. So you have this conflict just floating around you in your mind. You have no closure from it, right? So I feel like you need to give yourself some closure. So some things I like to do, I like to, and it's gonna sound stupid, but I mean, some people do it. You can write down a letter, like you're writing a letter to that person. Literally write a letter to that person. I've done that. I burnt it. I buried it in the ground. I've thrown it in the trash after I was done. And I don't know why it works, but it did work. Like, it's just like, okay. And then I pray as well. And I would ask the Lord to help me forgive that person, you know, and help me get past the barrier that I have. Because at the end of the day, people say, oh, forgiveness is for you. It's for yourself, okay? Because you can't move past certain things until you forgive people, right? You know, you have to forgive people. That's why it's so important. But I've done that. I've heard of people and seen people like write someone's name on a stone if you live by water and just throw it in the ocean. Like, almost like it's symbolic. So you're throwing it away and you're letting it go. You know what I mean? It's very symbolic, and it works for some people. So those are things that you can try to do. And also, like, to deal with thoughts, find a hobby. And I know, like, I'm not going to sit here and say exercise. Sorry, Melissa. I hate exercising. With a passion. I hate it.
You ain't the only one.
I can swim all day long, right? That's exercise. But I'm not. Don't make me run. Dante trying to get me to do all that. No, I cannot do that. I don't like sweating and getting hot and all that. Like,
I just told my husband, I was like, I want a punching bag now.
Oh gosh. it puts me in such a bad mood. I'm like, this is not relaxing.
Right.
Then you gonna want some gloves. Then you gonna want a ring.
Look.
Exercise is good. It helps.
Yeah, but it helps, but I don't know. I don't like getting hot. So I think
Just
that's why
walk. Sometimes just
I don't
take
like
it.
doing that. No.
You don't like taking a walk and just because the sun, it's been proven that the sun, the colors, the trees, the flowers, all these things play a part in our mental health. They do.
I like to
They
sit. I
do.
can sit in that, coach. I can sit in that. But if I'm going to exercise, I will be in a pool all day long. I can do that all day. That's
Yeah, that's
relaxing.
That's
good.
excellent. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
that's excellent.
I can do that. I don't, but don't ask me to go for a walk. If I'm going to look at nature and stuff, I'll sit on the patio.
Yeah,
Like,
that
I
works the
don't know.
same.
Yeah,
That works
that
the same
helps.
way.
That helps.
It helps a lot.
Yeah,
I
I
do that
love
for a
to, I
good
love to
chunk.
swim. Yeah,
And
I
I,
love
be-
to swim.
I don't think a lot of people really realize just how important the colors, the nature, the sun, all
Oh,
these things
yeah.
are when it comes to your mental health status and stuff like that. I've read some books, self-help books, and they teach you that in that same stuff that, these things that we take for granted really helps us, helps get us either out of a state
Yeah.
or helps from preventing these stages. It seems pretty basic and simple, but I mean, it's the truth. If you apply and everything, just like Melissa said, everything is attention on your belief. If you don't believe that any of this stuff is going to work, then it's not going to work for you. That's the first and foremost. If you don't believe that your situation is going to get better and you believe that the only way you can get out of this is to do one thing, or that belief system alone is going to be forged into yourself, and that's how you're going to operate, and it's going to be hard to change that. So you have to be open to different techniques and try different things and really focus on making these other choices, and it'll help for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
I want
And that's,
to.
oops, sorry, Melissa.
Sorry.
Or Maria. Is that Maria?
Yeah.
Sorry, Maria.
I want to hop on with what Joe said. So again, I write all the time, and I'll write the weirdest of things. But I actually wrote a letter to my mother's ex-husband. So basically, again, a little backstory was he abused me from, I think they got married when I was 5. So let's say 5 to 6 until I was 16. That's when my mom decided it was time to go. So that entire time, my mom never knew what was going on with me because he only did those things when she was working. When she was home, he was a completely different person. And as a young girl, I didn't go to my mom and I didn't tell her what was going on, what was happening. And when I was 16 was when I found out that he wasn't just doing it to me, he was doing it to my mom. Her entire marriage with him, he was doing that to my mom. Again, I've seen my mom do things throughout their marriage that weren't something that you would want your kids to see, but me and my brother had caught her or whatever. But we never knew the extent of what was going on with her. And one day when my mom decided she was done, she moved into my room at the time, and she was sleeping in my room. And it was the day, I think, before we left. They got into an argument and he started beating her, and me and my brother ran into the room and we started hitting him and trying to get him off of her. And then he ended up pushing me so hard into the wall that I hit my head so hard that I blacked out. And when I came to again, I was on the floor. And so it was just years of a lot of physical abuse. And I actually wrote a letter to him that I have saved in my phone. And at the very end, through everything that I said, I was so mad. I was like, I wish I would have ran you over with my car, reversed, ran you over again, just took off. There was a lot to it. And at the very end, I was, as crazy as it sounds, I was like, I forgive you. and I hope you live a better life, and I hope you find happiness and all of that. And I have been wanting to send him this letter since I wrote it last year, and I have yet to be able to build up the courage to send it, because I feel like once I do that, I can completely let go of that part of my life. But I just don't have the courage to send the letter.
So that unfortunately, there is a lot of women that can relate to your story, and so thanks again for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
And that forgiveness is very important in your progress, is making sure that you forgive that person. And so you just understanding that first of all, you believe in that the only way you can have closure is to send this letter. Again, is stemming from your belief. You don't have to send the letter to have closure. But however, if you feel like that and you wrote this letter and you at the end, how you saying that you want him to have a prosperous life and stuff like that, that shows there that you have that forgiveness. And so I would say send the letter to him. Send the letter to him. Obviously you're, I don't know the basis of the letter, if it's disrespectful or if it was mean, or if you just telling your story,
Right.
and you're just telling your story from your perspective, and but judging by what you said at the end, that you wishing the best for him, and you just kind of telling him what you've been through, because a lot of times these people, they've been abused themselves. They've been abused themselves, and they're abusing other people, and mentally they just don't understand the impact that they're wrongdoing is having on other people. So, but the fact that you wrote the letter and you have it is a victory in itself. It's a victory in itself. And so you can send it to, send it off to nowhere. If you don't have to send it to this person, put it in, and like they mentioned, write it, send it on a letter, send it to your email, print it off, and, do it that way. If you don't want to actually send it to that individual, but just the fact that you wrote it out is a victory in itself, for sure.
Letting it off.
Absolutely.
I thought that was great. Thanks for sharing that, Maria.
Yeah. Question, do you still have a relationship with your mom? You have a strong relationship with your mom, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I have a relationship with my mom. Again, for a long time, I was really mad at her because I felt like, as your child and you being my mother, there would have been signs that maybe I did to kind of show you, like, hey, something is happening, something's wrong with me, something's going on, and she never saw that. So for a long time, I was really mad at her for that. And I think it was last year too. I don't know. A lot of stuff came out last year. Last year, I was working with her, and then I quit. And when I quit, I just went ballistic on her. And we didn't talk for a few days or whatever. And then I apologized, and I had went to her house, and it just all came out. And I was like, this is what happened. You weren't there. I don't know how you didn't see it. And just, I blew up on her without realizing that at the end of the day, I didn't say anything. So how would she know? And if it's not happening when she's around, how would she know?
Right.
So I let her know everything that happened, the entire 10 years I think they were together. And she actually, again, she apologized to me. She was crying. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that this was happening. And then she went on his Facebook and went off on him, and then he blocked her. I don't know what happened there. Anyways, so I think for a long time, I didn't have a really close relationship with my mom because of that, because I felt like she should have known. But just opening up to her last year and then realizing like it really wasn't her fault because she didn't know and I never spoke about it. It's gotten us a little bit closer. But yeah, I don't. We have a relationship. It's not as close as I wish it would be, and I think that has to do more with me than with her.
So yeah, it's important to to make sure you have that close relationship with your mom. I know obviously there's a history there, but it's important for your well-being, mental wise and whatnot, is to make sure you establish that forgiveness and that strong relationship with your mom. And of course, depending on your mom's state, how she is, positive or negative, that would dictate the closeness of the relationship, because sometimes it's not always good to be very close or with negative family members. We are family members that we love at a distance because they're just not beneficial to us. They can be a lot of negative, they can be detrimental to our mental state. So and I'm not saying that that's how your situation is, I'm just saying you would keep that in mind as well. So question to you, do you often think about those past situations, those past 10 years? And when you do, how do you respond?
I do think about them. I try not to, but I do. And when I do, it brings me down only because for a really long time, again, I felt like I was worthless. So even now to this day, sometimes it's hard to look at myself in the mirror. When it comes to that part of it, I think it has to do with the fact that for a few years of my life, I did have an eating disorder. I was anorexic and I weighed like 80 pounds and now I'm like 130. So I kind of feel, that's something that I'm always going to live with for the rest of my life too. Like that's not just going to go away by itself.
You talking about with the eating disorder or?
Right. So.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So sometimes I'll look at myself in the mirror and then I will think back to my eating disorder, and then I'll think back to why I started my eating disorder in the first place, which takes me back to him and then the things that he told me and the things that he did. So that's really hard. So I try not to think of those past things. But I do.
Couple things. When you say that you're always going to have this issue, as far as the eating disorder, you're automatically putting this into your life, making it permanent into your life. You're completely taking away the opportunity for you to get better. Whenever we say, this is how I am, this is what I'm going to be, it's not going to change, we're automatically speaking to ourselves and telling ourselves that we're and closing the door to it getting better. And so I would start speaking the opposite. I would start telling yourself that you are improving every day, you are getting better, and you're not that person every single day. Even if you don't feel it, even if you don't see it, I would never give in to the negative or speak to negative over yourself. That was first and foremost. That just my humble advice to you. That's all it is my humble advice to you, that I would never, from this moment on, I would never talk the opposite. Always talk what you want, where you want to be, what you want to accomplish, how you want to feel, all these things. Always speak that over yourself constantly. This does something to our body. The next thing is, this is a technique that I've read and learned, because I've actually had some, just some simple studies on coaching and as far as life and stuff like that. So we have the ability, believe it or not, it's just how our mind works. you can actually rewrite some of the things in your history. You can rewrite that. It takes strong focus and belief. Everything stems on your belief, but and it's not, and I'm not saying it's an easy process and it's a quick process, but you can rewrite that whole scenario and get power out of it and get positivity out of that negative scenario that you had to deal with. You can do that. How you do that is something that you're going to have to focus on. Maybe there's, maybe this is your story now. You can help other girls get out of this because of this situation, or there's something you can take out of that to rewrite it so that it's no longer, whenever you think about it, it's no longer a negative thought when you think about that situation. I know it's kind of strange, but it's the truth. That's how our brains work. We can rewire things that happened in the past that was sometimes traumatic to us or whatever it was, and we can change it. And so when we change it now in the future, whenever we're thinking about it, we have a different perspective on it. And so that's and there's a technique, there's a technique. Sometimes you just might have to, sit and pray or meditate. I wouldn't say pray, but kind of meditate, over the situation and just change it. Look at the positives, try to find the positives out of it. And each situation is different. I can't tell you exactly how you can, it's going to apply to you. But I'm just letting you know that is a power. That is a power that each human being has. It's a God-given power to take these past trauma events and rewrite it so that we no longer lose power from it, but we strengthen ourselves. And it's going to include you using your emotions. See, one of the things I say all the time is that our emotions, they make terrible masters, but they make great slaves. And the reason they make great slaves is because we're in control of them, and we can rewrite things by changing the emotion. Again, you have to have a focus and you have to have a belief and you have to really want to do this in order for it to work for you. But you can do that and you start getting happy, making yourself excited and happy about the situation, about what you've learned out of it, about how you came out of it, about how you're a better person. And you do that and it'll rewrite that whole situation. And now you created this powerful person because of that situation. So that's just my humble advice from some of the studies and the books that I've read about some of these situations.
Right. I think I was doing pretty good for a while there, and I got knocked off the rails really, really bad in December because I was cramping really bad. Sorry, it's going to be TMI. But I want to speak openly about it because one thing I haven't done is I haven't told my family from me. And so I was cramping really bad. I was bleeding really bad. I didn't know what was going on. And I went to the doctors to find out that I was pregnant, but I miscarried, but I didn't know. And I think that is one of the reasons why I've been in a deeper depression the past few months, on top of some other things that have happened. So I get what you're saying, but with things like that, I don't know how to rewire and rechange my thought process when it comes to things like that, because that was a really big traumatic event that happened.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I understand that. Obviously, being a man, I would never know what it feels like to be in that particular situation or to go through those things. And that's where the prayer life comes in, where you communicate. I don't know where you are with your belief or your faith, but that's where the prayer life comes in. And God, who is the creator of everything, you will get that idea. You will get that understanding of how this terrible, bad horrible situation can be turned into something positive that you can use. It's not necessarily the situation is going to change, obviously, because it's history, but you can use it to help somebody else, because there's millions of, and this is just general, there's millions of ladies out there that have been through that situation that don't know what to do, that feel like they can't make it through it, and you are evidence that a person can make it through it, and they may need to talk to you. They no ain't no maybe to it. They will need to talk to somebody who can tell them exactly how to get through it, how you got through it, how you was able to make it this far, and you didn't fall. You didn't succumb to anything. That alone is power right there, and how you utilize that power. So that's the starting focus, is knowing that you're not the only person, that there's some ladies that need your help, just like you're putting this information out here now for people to understand and get some comfort, be like, man, I've been through that same thing. It's good to hear that, or it's good to know that I'm not alone when it comes to this type of trauma or this kind of situation. And so that's where your power comes in. And so that's just like I said, it's just, it's just from my humble advice, and getting you to understand your power, where you are, and knowing that none of these things is your fault. None of these things is your fault. You didn't bring it on. It just, even the Bible tells us that it shines on the righteous as well as the unrighteous. We're placed in these situations, but it's up to us to get the strength out of it. And I would tell you that the people who've been through the biggest trauma end up being the strongest people. They have the biggest impact on other people because of that. They have the biggest impact. So
Which
again,
I like what you said, and that makes a lot of sense, and that helps, because even though I went through it, and yeah, I had those thoughts. I don't want to get emotional, but I might. Sorry.
You're okay.
I had those thoughts of, I have 2 beautiful, healthy boys.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted so badly to have a 3rd child. I've always wanted that. And I didn't know. Then I found out, and the next second they're telling me that I miscarried it. I was really hard on myself, why I wasn't good enough. What did I do wrong? How couldn't I have protected my own child? And that is really hard on anyone, but especially with mothers, Yeah. And my friend, one of my closest friends, actually, found out that she was pregnant with twins, and she just recently had to go in because she miscarried both of them. And I was there, and I helped her through it, and I gave her words of encouragement and things like that, because I know what it feels like. So I like how you said that I have the power to help other people, because I feel like, well, she actually texted me back later on that day after she got out of the hospital, and she was like, I'm just seeing this right now, and I just want to say thank you so much, because while I was laying on that bed, all I can think of is, I can't do this. I can't do this. And your words really helped me get through it. So I like that. I like what you said.
You build on that. That's just one person. There's millions of other girls that's going to be coming around you or around you that you can impact the same way, that need that same type of encouragement. And it's up to you to just take that specific focus and turn it into just that. Don't let it just be an incident that you isolated incident that, you just help one person, or that situation that you've been through. You turn that and you get the power out of it, just like you did. I think that's amazing. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Can I say something to Maria?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Maria, because I know that wasn't easy to share.
Yeah.
But it's just like Coach said, I really just wanted to encourage you and say that the stuff that happened to you in your life, it wasn't your fault. He took the words right out of my mouth, because I felt like hearing you, you were somewhat blaming yourself. And I can speak from my own experience because my family's not American. They don't believe in, I won't say all of them, but my family, they didn't believe in really talking things through or talking about anything. And so I don't know how your mom's situation is with her, childhood, if she had any trauma or anything like that. But one thing I've learned, and obviously this is through prayer with the Lord, is that sometimes people, it's not like they don't want to give you a particular relationship, but he pretty much put it to me this way: how can someone give you something they've never had? They were never given. And you can even think of that with your ex-stepfather, right? We don't know his history. And I think someone was kind of touching on this before, but we don't know his history. And we don't know what he was pretty much treated like in his childhood. It is so hard for people to give something, like it's impossible. How can you give something you really don't have? You don't have it. You never learned it. No one's ever given it to you. And that's something I had to take in my own life. And I'm just being straightforward. Like me and Dante, like we tried. We were trying to get pregnant for some months. And even to the point that his family was like, "Oh, I've never seen someone work so hard to get pregnant," and they didn't mean anything by it, but it was just, it never happened to them. You know what I mean? And I just remember, like Melissa was saying, like she's stressing about everything. I was stressing about everything. I was thinking about it. It wasn't until I stopped thinking about everything and saying, you know what? If it's supposed to happen, it will happen. And I got pregnant like that. I mean, it was like quick, and it was all the stress. And I know that, well, I'm taking a rabbit hole, I'm sorry. But I know that when I found out I was pregnant, I was excited. But at the same time, I did not want any girls. I didn't want any girls. And it was because of my own childhood and my own experience with my mother. I kept saying, I don't want to treat my girls like my mother treated me. She didn't treat me horribly. I didn't have that mother-daughter relationship with her because she didn't know how to give it. I mean, she came from poverty. I mean, it was bad. Like my family's from Haiti. So like, she just had a really hard life. And I just was so scared. Oh my God, I was so scared. And I remember everybody thought we were having boys. We were convinced we were having boys because boys run in this family. And I mean, it was ridiculous. And to the point where even my mother-in-law said boy clothes, like it was ridiculous. We didn't even know what we were having yet. And I know that when they said that we were having a girl, my heart sank. I went home and I cried and I cried and I cried. I was scared to death. Okay. Like scared. And I was like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. Why would you give me a girl? I know it sounds stupid, but I was experiencing that because of the own trauma I had. Right. So it was my own trauma I was dealing with. And it wasn't until, like Coach said, you have to say, oh, okay, let's think about what we're thinking here, and then I started thinking, well, I am not my mother. And I know what I don't want for my children. Right. So from there, I was able to take extra steps to say, okay, I know that the kind of mother I want to be, kind of like what Melissa was saying, I want to be a good mother. I want to be there for my kids. I want to be involved, like, just saying those things and thinking about that and praying, saying, Lord, help me be a good mother, right? Like, because it's a little nerve-wracking too. But it was almost like, yeah, you do have to change your thinking, and if you do pray, definitely pray, right? Because I just feel like I see that with a lot of people, like the trauma that they've had, they do blame themselves. Yeah. You can't control other people. Other people, they do it because they want to, regardless, like I've seen people, kind of like, you know, in Maria's situation when they were abused as kids, you know, because they kind of went along with her, they didn't fight back or they didn't stick up for themselves. You know, they put all that pressure on themselves. No, you got to remember you were a child. That person was an adult, right? No, that's too much pressure on yourself and on your life. Like, you know, and I just want to encourage you because I'm so sorry you went through your miscarriage, you know, but you, I mean, honestly, I can think about you, Maria, and be like, man, you can write a book, you can write blogs, you can like really reach
I have
people.
thought about it.
You should, because you write.
You've
you
been
know,
practicing.
yeah.
Here it goes. See?
Yeah,
It's gonna come
I was thinking
around.
when you said journaling, I was
Telling
like,
you.
this lady, she's gonna write a book. That's awesome.
Yeah, she should because she enjoys writing. You know, and not everybody enjoys writing. That's a gift God gave you. Use it. Use it. And in helping other people, God will heal you. I'm telling you. It's amazing.
Totally.
Amazing. Yeah. So just keep going. You got this, Maria. Look, God's got you. Start writing, girlfriend. I'm gonna be looking for your blog and your book. I'm looking.
Hey, just remember, Maria, family talk. Heard it first.
Exactly. The Maria Show.
Maria.
Family talk. Heard it first. But
that's true.
Hey,
Yes.
I just want to say, and this is gonna be my final thought. So I think we ran a little bit over, but it's okay because I think some of us needed to hear some of this stuff. And I'll let Coach A hit on final thoughts with everybody before we roll out. But I just want to say that I appreciate the women jumping on today. Yes. Maria, Joe, Melissa. We had Ali on earlier. We had T on earlier. We had Linda. I think that's one of Nick's friends in the comments. Y'all were just expressing yourselves and letting us know what's going on mentally with some of you guys. And it takes a big heart of courage to do that. You know what I'm saying? So I just appreciate y'all women coming on and speaking with us. And everything that was said today, I'm going to take it and use it in my own life, even from a woman's perspective, because I also in my life got to understand my girlfriend and what she goes through mentally. So that's my final thought. I appreciate y'all coming on. Y'all are more than welcome to come back whenever we have these deep discussions. And yeah, I just appreciate y'all. I thank y'all for everything that was shared. I appreciate it.
Yes. Johnny Drip, any words you want to put out there, sir, before we wrap it up?
Well, I'd like to thank the ladies that's like Brandon. I appreciate your stories and perspective. You know, it helps me grow as a person.
Right.
Gives me a better understanding of, you know, the female perspective, which I appreciate because everything I've learned is I learned from my mom and a woman, and I continue to learn. And I like to, you know, keep on learning more and more about how women think and everything and feel in situations. And that's all I got to say. Thanks again.
Absolutely.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I want to say a couple of things really quick. So we were talking about like depression and things. That's basically what this is about with women specifically. So I did write down a few things that I did read, and if by any chance I'm a little off, I'm sorry. But I did read that women are nearly twice as likely to suffer from major depression than men. 4 times as many men than women do commit suicide. However, women attempt suicide more than men, twice as likely. 8.7% of women have depression, and about 5.3% of men have depression. Over 47,000 Americans die of suicide each year. So imagine how many men and women that is. 40% of those who have committed suicide have made at least one previous attempt before. 8 out of 10 people considering suicide give some signs of their intentions to do so. Let me see. About 35% of Americans with depression receive no treatment at all. Only half of Americans who are diagnosed with depression is given a year of treatment, and those who do seek treatment wait months or years to get help. Many individuals with depression who seek treatment are undertreated. And I just want to put in there, especially with the 8 out of 10 people considering suicide give signs of their intentions to do so. I want to say really quick, I have attempted on a couple of occasions. Not a lot of people know that. That's not something that I just willy-nilly go and just tell anyone. But I just want to say it from my side. I have attempted when I was, like I said, when I was 12 and I started getting into drugs, and I just wanted whatever pill somebody gave me, I took because I just wanted my life to be done. I do still fight. I don't want to commit suicide. That's not a thought that goes through my mind. Like, hey, tomorrow, you know, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. No, it doesn't work like that. But there are times where I'm like, damn, like life is too hard and I can't. I'm done. I'm exhausted. Like I can't continue. And that's a really scary thought to have, even though there's multiple people or a lot of people that won't do that. It might be a thought that crosses their mind at one point in time. So I just want to say, if you have family members or if you know people who do struggle, watch them a little bit more. Because sometimes we're not going to give you a sign. We're not going to write a status on Facebook, tomorrow I'm going to kill myself or things like that, you know, but there are signs that people might write or might do, that if you take action on right away and you see that and you feel something, go to them, talk to them, and just do whatever you can to help uplift them, because that is what a lot of people need, especially when they go through those types of thoughts. When they have those thoughts, is they need somebody to just kind of help bring them back. So I just wanted to end my spot with, because I know last week we didn't say it, but the National Suicide Prevention Line is 1-800-273-8255. And if you have any thoughts, if you know someone who is really deep and they need help, give them that phone number, have them call, and so you guys can talk to someone.
Yeah.
Because it's not always easy going to your friend, always easy going to your family, especially for me. Like I said, I'm from a Hispanic household. Things like this is what they would consider like taboo. You don't talk about it. Nobody talks about it.
Right.
So just, you know, like I said, if somebody's going through that, or if you're going through it, that's a phone number, call, and just speak to someone.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
Excellent.
Thank you for that. Yeah. And also, just to add to what you said, Coach A, we got to check on our people, man. If we call ourselves friends and family and we say we love someone, we got to check on our people. So I just wanted to say that real quick.
Yeah. And educate yourself. Educate yourself. There's different articles and books out there that you can read to help you understand more what the person might be feeling, or signs, knowing the different signs. Because like she mentioned, they're not, some people not, the people that are seriously in that state, they're not just going to be open and you know, there's different things that they do. You know, they might give away stuff that they, you know, held, you know, closest to them. And just, you know, like I said, just above all, educate yourself and learn about these things so you can, you know, see some of the signs in your home or within your relatives.
Okay.
So anything else?
Anything else? Okay. Joe, you got anything else for us?
I really enjoyed this one. This is near and dear to my heart, like I said before.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Please, people, you know, get rid of the stigma of mental health. Talk about it. Like Maria said, it's such a stigma. If you know someone with mental health, people, they're constantly being told they can't do things, right? That's something that I've realized. You can't do this because of this. You can't do this because of that. No. Like, encourage that person, like Maria said, be there for that person. And if they need help, help them. You know, be there for them, because you can be the person that God uses to kind of just get them going on their feet and let God do the rest, right? Be there, be present in their life, but you know, you can be the person that God chooses to make a difference. And also, I will say this because of the facts Maria threw out. If you are on mental health medication and you are not sleeping, your medications are not working. Just remember that. Remember that. You need sleep. I don't know what it is about it, but if you're not sleeping, talk to your doctor.
Absolutely.
Also, thank you to all the people that commented, Linda, Matrix, Dante, everybody that took time to listen, and Justin as well, and left a comment. We appreciate you guys as well. So for the final thoughts, it's important, you know, that you know, we call this wrap up the final thought, but in your life, we can't control situations. We can't control the environment. We can't control people. But the one thing we can control is the final thought. The final thought about whatever it is that you've been going through, whatever it is that you've had to deal with. You, each and every individual, has the power to control that final thought. And so if you want peace in your life, make the peace your final thought. If you want joy in your life, make joy your final thought. And with that being said, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody out there, we appreciate you guys. Wonderful time. Family talk has been awesome. Until next time, peace.
Peace, y'all. Much love. Y'all have a great Saturday.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Wasn't worried about me last year when the cashier sent me to my car when I came short. No, I got the game torn. They either hate it or love it. Slim chances on advances, I just balanced the budget. Fuck it, free my niggas on my Harriet Tubman. They said I'd never be the greatest, that's a scary assumption. But now I'm buzzing like the last shot. Got these lame tired old niggas about to pass out. Pass it.